Hello, guys. Welcome back to Solo Club. I hope you're well. I think we're live. I was about to say everything is straight now because if you were watching last time, you'll know that I had a wonky desk. But now I've just noticed that the the line up here is slightly off. I'm just going to blame the room. That the entire building must be completely wonky. That's the reason. Anyway, you didn't come here to hear me talk about that. You came here to hear me talk about and ramble on about this industry. So, yeah, welcome back. If you're watching this in the future, if you enjoy this video, which is often a bit rambly, but for very good reason, then give it a quick thumbs up because that helps the channel massively. And equally, if you haven't subscribed yet, it might be worth subscribing. If you're joining me live, thank you very much for taking the time to do that. I'm still trying to work out when is best to do these. I haven't worked it out at all. Something I haven't mastered yet, but I'll keep playing with those timings. So it's Friday, which is good news, and I thought, what can I talk about today? And I think it's time to talk about the next academy. Again, it's just me and Rob on here from the looks of it. Wallop, indeed. Oh no, we've got more people. More people are coming. That's good. Not that it would be a problem with just me and Rob, but it kind of turns it into a podcast, which is not. For those who don't know, Rob is my podcast co-host on 8 or 16. Go and check that out if you haven't checked that out yet. Another little plug. But yeah, going back to what I'm talking about today, obviously, as always, I'll take some questions at the end of this. Questions about literally anything apart from tech. This isn't a tech channel, so I'd like to avoid tech questions. That's what the Mark Ellis Reviews channel's for, or over there more realistically. Anything to do with this industry, anything to do with my business, just, yeah, ask away. So make some notes if you've got questions. But the big thing I want to talk about today is the Academy. And I suppose, firstly, is a bit of background. So at the start of this year, I opened the doors to the Medium Academy, which was this kind of big idea that I had to create a cohort-based live online course. And it all kind of stemmed from the ebook that I wrote about Medium last year, which sold really well, seemed to be really popular. And I looked at that ebook and thought, I can turn this into something bigger. It can be something more impressive than just an ebook. Not that the ebook wasn't impressive, obviously, but I could just see a way of turning that into a bigger thing. So inspired by the likes of Ali Abdaal, who had created the part-time YouTuber Academy, I decided to take the same sort of model as he had and create a completely live online-based course about Medium. I did that. We got a nice cohort together at the start of this year. It ran for 9 weeks. That cohort is still in existence. They now form part of a little community on Discord, which is fantastic. It's not a big cohort, and I knew it wouldn't be because these things are very difficult to sell, particularly at the moment. Also, it's my first academy, so it's not something I can't expect thousands of people to be coming through the doors. But we had a nice group of people, and like I say, they're currently, getting on with their sort of tasks and things that I set them as a result of the academy. They're on their own, they're forging their own careers as Medium writers. And we've got check-ins coming up. So we've got 3 monthly, 6 monthly check-ins to keep in touch with each other. And I can't wait to see how they get on in terms of their own writing journey. However, there's a few things I've learned about these running and creating these academies, which is that, one, they're really hard, much harder work than you would ever expect. I think, like most things in life, it's easy to go into these things naively. I definitely did that with this to a degree. So it was an awful lot of work. Secondly, what was really interesting is that, and I think I knew this deep down, but what was interesting is that I got the impression quite quickly during that Medium Academy, during those 9 weeks, that people wanted to know more. Medium was obviously what they were there for. They wanted to write online and be rewarded for it. But clearly they had an interest beyond that. So they were interested in YouTube, in how the Medium side of my business fits in with my website and how that then links to the videos that I make. They wanted, basically, although they didn't say this, I know they wanted a big, kind of much wider view of how this business works. So the plan with the academy was always to have the Medium Academy and have that as, cohorts running throughout the year. That's not enough, though. And as I say, the main reason for this is that I know people want to see the real nuts and bolts of this entire business. So what the plan is now, I haven't completely got rid of the Medium Academy at all. Like I say, that first cohort is still running, but the next Academy cohort is going to be based around the entire business. So it's not just going to be based on Medium. I'm basically going to take the entire Mark Ellis Reviews business and take it apart. So lift the bonnet, unscrew things, pull out the spark plugs, open the head, and show you all of the oil and all the stuff inside. This is a very strange analogy, but all the stuff that's going on inside that engine, and it's going to be called the Mark Ellis Academy. Really imaginatively, it took me ages to come up with that name, as you can imagine. But yeah, I'm going to call it the Mark Ellis Academy, and it's going to cover everything from the writing side of things right through to YouTube, to live stuff that I'm doing like this, social media. And basically, I'm going to reveal everything. And I can't wait. I think it's the next logical step for this. And it's something which I'm very, very excited about. I think beyond the Medium Academy and beyond the members of that academy, it became quite clear. In fact, it's been clear to me for a long time that people find this thing fascinating. Solo Club is a bit of a, not an anomaly, but it's fairly obvious that people who come to this channel are interested in this stuff. But even the people who come to Mark Ellis Reviews to watch MacBook reviews and hear me talk about the Apple Watch Ultra, a lot of them are interested in this business, and they're interested in the kind of business of content creation. I think that's because it's such a wide field now. So many people are doing it, and I get it completely. I mean, I think before I came into this industry, I was fascinated by it as well. And when you start to get that sniff that they want to know how you're doing things, how you've gone from being running a normal job, normal business, to doing something like this, which isn't normal. No matter how popular it is now, it's still not normal. Trust me. People want to know how it all works. So I've always known that it's worth sharing what I do. And the other reason it's worth doing this is because, and I think I've said this before on these live streams in the past, that I work in an industry now which doesn't really have any traditional competition. So I've worked in lots of businesses and in sectors in the past which do have very fierce competition, and it's draining because you spend all your time watching the competition, checking their websites and seeing what they're doing rather than working on your own stuff. Excuse me. Whereas in this business, you don't really compete. You do compete to a degree for certain things, like I suppose there's a finite number of eyeballs out there to watch and read your stuff, but you're not really competing for them because there's still enough. There's billions of users on YouTube, for instance. And what's happened as a result of this is that I've made lots of lovely friends in tech YouTube, and also in this YouTube as well, this kind of content creator space. We don't see none of it. There will be people who do, obviously, but the majority of people that you meet in this business, in this industry, don't view each other as competitors. And what that means is that we all share. We all share our wins, our losses, our strategies to a degree. We do keep some stuff back, obviously, but we do, on the whole, share things between each other. We're very much in it together in that respect, and that's kind of it's definitely where the Medium Academy came from. I worked out a way of consistently earning $2,000 every month on Medium, and thought, well, if I can do it, other people can do it. Why not share that knowledge? It's no detriment to me. It's also obviously another way to make this business profitable by selling my knowledge. Why not do it? You don't hold things to yourself. You don't keep things in your own little world in here. There's some exceptions to that, like I say, but the majority of stuff that we share it's for everyone, basically. So I'm waffling a little bit now, but the point being that because there is no danger to my business for me to open up the lid and show you how it works, makes total sense for me to use that as a way to run a completely different and a much wider academy called the Mark Ellis Academy. So this is all a bit of a sales pitch, guys, which I've not done yet on these live streams, but that's what I'm doing today. The thing to bear in mind with this, as you would guess, is that The new academy will take a while to put together. It's not going to be ready next week. It's not going to be ready next month. It will be later this year. I don't have a firm date for that yet, but I need time to get this up and running and get everything in place. I have mapped it out already, and there is actually a web link in the description. If you look down in the description after this video is finished, you can look now if you like, actually. There is a link to the Solo Club Academy website. You can go on there, read a little bit more about it, and there's also a section where you can put in your email address and be kept up to date with the kind of development with this and any news pertaining to the new academy. But basically, in a nutshell, it's going to be split up into 4 stages, which I am going to have to read from because I did this a little while ago. The first one is mindset, so it's all about getting your brain into gear about being a content creator, which, unless you do have a history in doing this, we all have to do. I came into this with a bit of a head start being a marketer, but I still wasn't a full-on, full-time content creator. And what I've learned over the last 3 years is that getting into that mindset, there's lots of things you need to do. There's a lot of things that you won't be aware of that are going to happen potentially if you really go for this. So that first stage is about readying yourself really for this industry, which isn't for everyone. It's one of those things you might kind of start readying yourself for it and realize that actually this isn't much fun, or it's just not me, or whatever. So it's very important that that first stage takes place. The second stage is platforms. And this is where I expand way beyond the medium side of things. So medium will still be in there, but we'll be looking at the website's role, at social media's role, so TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, etc., and of course YouTube, which is the biggest platform for me and probably is for most people who will sign up to the academy. Stage 3 is planning and creation. That's the exciting bit. That's when you actually start making stuff, start making content and publishing it. And because I'll be covering all those different platforms, it'll be a very, very kind of varied curriculum at that point. We'll be looking at how you should best use YouTube, the kind of strategies around repurposing content from YouTube into TikTok, into Instagram Reels, etc., the art of storytelling, repurposing, which I've just mentioned, and obviously the kind of the really important stuff, which is planning and ideation. So coming up with ideas and making sure you've always got enough ideas in the bank to keep going. So that's a really exciting phase of it, but you can't really get to that without the other 2 stages. And the 4th stage is growth, which is what happens after you've done all that. You've readied yourself for it. You've got in the mindset of being a creator. You've worked out what platforms you're going to start putting your content out there on, and you're creating the content. But then what happens next? Where do you go from there? Once you start to see some growth and start to see some audience members coming through and hopefully revenue coming through, where do you go from there? What do you do with all the metrics that come through? What do you do with the community that you start building? It's all that kind of stuff. And I won't go on anymore with a sales pitch now because that's not fair. But I'll let you check out the website, guys. And it's something which, like I say, is coming later this year, and I can't wait to kind of fully unveil it. And yeah, that was it really in terms of the the big sales pitch. And hopefully some of you guys will get involved. But I just thought we'd just dive straight into questions now, really, because it's Friday. Hopefully we're all kind of winding down a bit now for the weekend, as much as you can do that. But yeah, it looks like we've got Neil on board. I met Neil in New York. It was last week. Well, it's gone so quickly, but it was over a week ago now. I can't believe how quickly that's gone, Neil. But Neil and Josh, actually, who probably isn't on this live stream. I don't think he's on here yet. But yeah, it was lovely to meet people in real life, IRL, as they say. But yeah, hit me with some questions, guys. Partly because I need to have a drink because my voice is still not up to scratch at the minute after my illness last week and the week before that and the week before that. Some new names as well, which is nice. Any questions? Just hit me with anything. This is the part of the live stream which is always a little bit unnerving because what if no one asks any questions? Where do you go with a Q&A if there aren't any Qs? Do you just make up answers? Who knows? Right, we've got a question. Wow, thank the Lord. Alan. Hi, Mark. I'm learning Final Cut, and I did your great Skillshare class. Thank you. Thanks for getting involved in that, Alan. How would you suggest to go about learning how to make the cool intro graphics and transitions you have? the basics don't, it cuts off there. But I'd argue that my cool intro graphics and transitions aren't that cool. They're pretty rough and ready. I don't do much of that stuff, as you've probably noticed. There's two graphical elements on Mark Ellis Reviews videos that are noticeable. Probably three, actually, to be fair. One of them is the intro, which is when the M comes up and the orange background fades out and I appear magically. Then you've got what follows after that is what I call the hook. So it's a very short 3, 4, 5 second thing where I try and get your attention, and then we get the intro kind of, the graphics coming in, different colored M, an audio ident. And then the only other graphical elements, really, there's probably two more. One of them is my lower third, which I always have a bit of fun with. My lower third with my name and a little caption beneath, which if you don't read those, it's probably worth reading them because I do have a bit of fun with that. And then the fourth element is, if that's the fourth one, is the transition between chapters, which is just a kind of circular thing that kind of comes in and out and uses my brand colors. That's it. They're not particularly technical, and the way that I've created those. One of them, so the lower third and the transitions are just purchased. It's one of those packs that you can buy. So whether you're using Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve or Premiere, whatever it is, you can buy these pre-made effects packs. There's loads of them. If you look on Motion Effects and those sort of websites, I think mine was from Motion Effects, you can buy them, you can customize them, so you can change the colors and lots of things you can do with them. You don't create them from scratch unless you're a visual artist or a motion graphics person. Don't bother. Just get one of those packs and customize it as your own, and then leave it. I've not changed those for a long time because they just work, and it's recognition that the more they stay as they are, the more people will recognize them. So that's it, really. Just buy yourself a pack. They're not very expensive either. You don't have to spend a huge amount of money on them. Joe, how good is Medium for organic reach? It's really good, actually, because in fact, that's what it's all about. There's not really any such thing as paid medium. If that's what you're kind of asking, Joe, there's no such thing really as the alternative, which is paid reach. You can't pay for your Medium articles to go anywhere else than they otherwise do via organic search. If you're referring to Google, they're very good for Google search. Medium ranks very highly within Google search results. That's great to a degree because it brings in quite a big audience sometimes for the right stories. The problem with it is that if you want to earn money through Medium on their partner program, you need internal Medium reads. So basically, there's two types of people who will read your Medium story. One of them is someone who's just come from Google. They've done a Google search. They're not a Medium member, but they've found your Medium story, which appears to answer their question. They'll read it. Great. The other type of person is someone who's a Medium member, paying Medium every year for their membership. They find your story, or they might follow you on Medium. They read it. Fantastic. The most valuable one out of those two for you, if you're looking at this from a revenue perspective, is the latter. It's the person who is paying for their Medium membership, because Medium will reward you part of that, a portion of that Medium membership for that person reading your story, basically. So if you get loads of external traffic, loads of non-Medium members coming in, the story won't earn very much at all. So I've had stories on Medium that have performed really well, really high views and reads, but they don't earn much, because if you look at the split between Google traffic and internal Medium traffic, it's like 80-20 or something ridiculous. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really, which is why your own website is so important. Make sure you have your own website, and you can mirror that. So you can basically post the exact same piece of content on your website as you can on Medium. There's no penalty in doing that, as long as you do the process correctly, which is explained in my ebook. It can't hurt anything, basically. Alan, is the table straight? It is. I was just saying this as I started. The table is pretty much straight, but I think this is now wonky, which I just think means the building is all over the place. I can't do anything about it. I'm going to blame whoever it is who built this very old building many, many years ago. But the table's all right. I'm quite happy with this now. That seems all right. Amir, new name, I think, here. Nice to see new members. Oh, new members, new people coming through. Um, I have a channel and I find it hard to be consistent. Spinning too many plates. Any tips? This is the most common question, Amir, that I receive. I think, well, one of the most common questions. Um, again, not knowing what you do. I don't know if this is a side project for you. Perhaps you've got another business or you've got another job that kind of takes most of your time, possibly family, etc. Whatever it might be that's taking you away from this. It's really, really hard. I think that's the first thing to bear in mind with this. There's no sugarcoating for this. It's very, very hard to remain consistent. Um, the only way that I've ever done it, really, and the way that I got started with YouTube, these videos are still there, actually. If you go back onto the Mark Ellis Reviews channel and go right back to the start, the very first videos, you'll find about 7 or 8 videos which are completely unrelated to what I do now. They are literally just me sat in different locations, be it my kitchen or an unpainted bedroom or various really strange places, talking about complete nonsense. So I think the very first video I'm talking about a YouTube guide book that I'm reading. The next one I start talking about the camera that I'm using. It's just very, very random, but that is the point, really. And the reason that I did that was I took those 7 or 8 weeks to just make sure that just to ensure that I posted one video for each of those weeks. I called it the diary series. So I thought, if I create this diary, this running diary of starting a YouTube channel, and promise myself that every, whatever it was, Wednesday, I will always publish a video for 7 or 8 weeks, then that will get me, one, used to being in front of camera, but 2, into that mindset of being consistent. So, don't, whatever you do, Mark, don't miss that Wednesday. I did that, and then I just carried on and started making proper videos, and I haven't looked back since. And since then, which was over 3 years ago, I've not missed a single week. I've published something every single week, and up until February last year, I was doing lots of stuff as well. I had another business that I was running, family, etc., etc. So it's not easy. There's no easy answer to this, and you'll find it difficult to be consistent for a long time. But it's just being very disciplined and saying to yourself, pick a day, pick a time that you have to publish, and always stick to it, basically. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, and you do have to make sacrifices, particularly if it's not your main thing. Although arguably you still have to make sacrifices when it is your main thing. So I hope that helps. Alan seems to go to that level. Did you make your ones yourself? Oh, you're talking about the graphics, Alan. Still, I think I answered that earlier. So no, I didn't make them myself, but I bought them and customized them. So any graphics, like I say, unless you're a visual, a motion graphics artist, just buy the templates and customize them. It's the best way to do it. Alan, by the way, YouTube is telling us different times for your broadcast, so I keep missing them. It's happened twice now. I have changed a couple, actually, Alan. To be fair, that might have been my fault. There were a couple that I did change, just because of scheduling conflicts and stuff. I'm still getting used to how to schedule these and where to schedule them, and occasionally, coming back to consistency, do as I say, not as I do. I have run into that issue where I've not been consistent with these live streams. So, but yeah, that's probably my fault more than YouTube, I think. But I'm getting there with it. Luke, hey Mark, loved your New York video recently. Really nice. Thanks, Luke. I'm glad you enjoyed that. It was, yeah, it was. I'll talk about in more detail about that trip at some point, but it was absolutely amazing. I've never been to New York before, so a brand new place for me, very much on my bucket list for many, many years. But I combined all that sightseeing with making content, and that's another thing, really. If you get the chance to make a video anywhere, just do it, and don't worry about gear. And I've talked in previous live streams about how I've pared down my gear over the last couple of years to the point where most of those, in fact, the Apple Watch Ultra video, where I was doing the tour of the famous locations, was filmed on an action cam, which is like that big, just walking around with it without even any kind of gimbal or tripod or anything, just holding the thing like that, walking around with it, and just a DJI lav mic. Really simple. So it was a kind of exercise in combining travel vlogging with a very kind of popular product, which was the watch in that case, with very simple content creation, not worrying about all the detail in terms of the technical side of it. Excuse me. just getting it out there. So I'm glad you liked it anyway. I'm really proud of those 2 videos. I think they've come out really well. Rob, in the forthcoming part-time Mark Ellis Academy course, I should have called it that, shouldn't I? I should have gone fully Ali Abdaal and done that. But in the forthcoming part-time Mark Ellis Academy course, will you be covering how to negotiate fees with potential sponsors and how you adjusted your rate as your audience went from 10K to 100K? Absolutely, it's going to be a huge part of it. It's a fascinating topic. The sponsor side of things. In fact, if any of you've got any questions on sponsors, ask them, because I'll answer as honestly as I can in terms of what I can say. There's certain things I can't say because of NDAs and stuff, but yeah, certainly in the academy, I really will be covering that, because I'm not a master at this at all. But what is fascinating is that no one appears to be a master. There doesn't seem to be any common rate card or way of pricing yourself. And you can quite often be let down by some very big brands, or brands who should know better when they come to how they value your time. And equally, you can be surprised by brands who really value your time and pay you properly and don't cause you any hassle, let you get on with it, leave all the creative stuff to you, don't get in the way of what should be a good video. It's a really interesting part of it, but yeah, there's definitely going to be some of that stuff in there. Absolutely. Joe, I think, is just clarifying something. You meant more like, is it heavily dependent on followers, etc., or even as someone new, if the content is good, can you gain traction? Joe, this was what we were referring to here, Joe. Let me look back. You were talking about Medium and organic reach, weren't you? It's not heavily dependent on followers at all, actually. And Medium's going through a bit of a change at the moment. They've kind of gone from this algorithm approach to more of a human curated manual approach, like a boosting approach for content, where people can recommend stories to be boosted, and that seems to be taking precedence over a YouTube type algorithm where the machines do the work. I'm not convinced by it at all. I will talk about it at some point on here, but things are very fluid at the moment. It's changing quite rapidly, so I don't want to jump the gun with that. But your followers don't mean a huge amount on Medium, and they don't on a lot of platforms, actually. You could have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and you could publish a video like I have done recently, and it could get 3,000 views. You're not going to get 100,000 people watching it. You're not even going to get 10% of that number watching it at all. Subscribers are generally, and followers are generally a vanity metric. They're important because they bring, they attract the attention of brands, which is very important. But they are a vanity metric. They always have been. What really matters is, in fact, you've summed it up there. Even if you are new to the platform, like Medium, if your content is good, you can gain traction. So if you're targeting a niche that is there and present and waiting for content like the content you're gonna write, you'll gain traction. It doesn't matter if you've only got 10 followers. It doesn't matter at all. And there's probably people on this who've kind of come onto this live today that are experiencing that. People, I know, in fact, I know there are. So yeah, you don't have to have thousands of followers at all, which is good news, obviously. What other questions have we got here? Alan says wonky is good. The table is going to have its own little, it's like its own little character, isn't it? Another one from Joe. Does what you do now on the main channel align with what you envisioned? Oh God, I can't say that. It's been a long week. Envisioned. Let me start again. Does what you do now on the main channel align with what you envisioned when you started? How close / different is it from what you may have imagined years ago? It's very different from what I imagined right at the start, because what I imagined right at the start was that I would be helping. Basically, I wanted to create content that would help freelancers, because I was freelancing back then, and it was just at the start of the pandemic, and a lot of people had unfortunately lost their jobs and were looking for different ways to work, and people were being thrown into this world of remote work. I suddenly thought, I've done this for years. All this stuff isn't new to me. I can start a channel that will help people with that, and then sprinkle in a few tech reviews to help them out as well. And it quite quickly became apparent that the tech reviews were far more interesting for people. And more importantly, actually, and this is a good lesson for anyone really, I enjoyed making them more than the kind of productivity / remote work stuff. The latter, I knew quite early on that I wasn't going to enjoy making it. If that's the case, if you just don't bother, do something else. Because why on earth start creating content about something you're not that passionate about, or which you find hard to make content about? Whereas the tech stuff flowed out quite easily, and it started to gain traction, which was amazing. So, in terms of the main channel now, it's very different from where I started, but that initial plan didn't last very long. So once I'd kind of got that out of the way and went straight into the tech side of things, where it is now is where I wanted it to kind of start getting to, basically, if that makes sense. So it's on the right course, basically. Uh, Amir has just oh wow, so you're a full-time doctor and dad. I'm not surprised you're finding it hard, Amir. I'm a dad myself as well, but I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saving lives at all with what I do. But you must be incredibly busy. So well, you've saved you've shared your channel there, which I'll check out, and hopefully other people will as well. But best of luck with your journey, Amir, and ask as many other questions as you've got. But I can see now why you're asking that question, because it must be. I guess working hours must be all over the place as well, potentially. So, but just try and fit it in where you can. Just pick one day where you will create a piece of content, even if. And the great thing these days, actually, while we're thinking of it, is that you don't have to create an 8-10 minute YouTube video, which takes you ages to make. You can create a short. If perhaps next week you've got a really busy week and the kids are doing stuff and whatever, promise yourself that you'll create a 60-second or a 30-second short. That's still a piece of content, and we know how important short form content is these days. So you've got that to lean back on now. You don't have to create an epic 8 to 10 minute YouTube video. Create something short if you need to. In fact, just do shorts for a bit. Just if that's easier, create a bunch of shorts every week, or just one. One piece of content is better than nothing, basically. Right, Rob. You've mastered Medium. I don't think I've mastered any of these really, Rob. You've mastered Medium, YouTube, live streaming, podcasting, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and online courses. Where do you go from here? EllisCon 2025. Yeah, I'm not really Gary V, am I? But no one needs that. No one wants that. What is interesting here, though, is that I haven't mastered any of this stuff, but the sheer number of those things is really reveals what the opportunity is here for people, and conveniently, this kind of segues nicely into something I heard recently, which was an interview by what they called Sam and God, my brain, guys, has absolutely gone. Colin and Samir. You can tell it's Friday, can't you? An interview between Colin and Samir. I've not been drinking either, I promise. Colin and Samir and Mr. Beast. They interviewed the world's most famous YouTuber who's got like 200 million subscribers, or whatever it is, quite recently. And he was saying that the opportunity people have now to spread themselves across different platforms is greater than ever. And it all comes down to content repurposing. And his point was that, and this was reassuring for me, was that you can take your YouTube video and just chop it up. From that YouTube video, create a bunch of shorts and just stick them on, TikTok, put them on Instagram. And what his point was that you can suddenly, and this comes to Rob's point, you can master multiple platforms at once. So if you become good at TikTok, you can probably become very good at Instagram as well, with Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. They're all fairly similar in terms of the way they work. The platforms have their own kind of idiosyncrasies and things, but they're pretty much the same in principle. But Mr. Beast was saying, look, this Jimmy is his real name. This is an amazing time to become a content creator, because you're not just stuck with one channel, which is what used to be the case. So yeah, I'm not going to be starting EllisCon 2025. That won't happen. But this is a great example of how widely you can spread your influence if you want to, and relatively easily as well. Do you have a limit regarding the cost of review items? For example, with the Apple Vision Pro headset around £3,500, well, it's $3,500, isn't it? So I guess over here we'll probably pay about £4,000 for it, due to the UK somehow always doing very badly with the exchange rate. Would that be too much? It's a lot. Whatever it is, it will be a lot of money over here. No, not at all. I don't really have a limit. I think you have to be sensible with this, and I've said this before many times in the past, that I'd never go into this, particularly the tech review game, without some money in the bank, and I've always done that. Before I went all in with this, I had a bit of a war chest that I could call on, and I've always been very careful to maintain that. I don't live month by month waiting for invoices to be paid. That's very important. I'd recommend that for anyone who goes into this side of thing, into this type of business full time. Um, and I knew right from the start that I wasn't going to be handed review units by big companies like Apple. I do get stuff now, not from Apple, but I do get stuff from other businesses, from other fairly big brands, which is fantastic. But it's never guaranteed, which is why right from the start I didn't take that as a kind of inevitability. I knew I would have to invest in this stuff to review it. And that's the key word. The key word is invest. If I buy a MacBook, for instance, or an iPad, I see it as an investment in content. A great example of this recently is the 15-inch MacBook Air, which is over there somewhere. I didn't need that at all, had no need for it whatsoever. But I knew from my past experience creating content about the M1 and the M2 13-inch MacBook Airs that the 15-inch should follow suit and be very popular with my audience. So I knew that by spending whatever it was, £1,200 in the UK, which is I always say pounds, and my US audience gets confused and thinks I'm talking about weight. I'm not. It's pounds, quid, GBP, whatever. Basically, I knew that I could spend that £1,200 and I'd make it back relatively quickly in AdSense and sponsorship revenue, simply because that one laptop, from that laptop, I can create 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos, probably a number of blog posts as well, and definitely a number of blog posts as well. It's just, it's an invaluable investment in content. Apple Vision is going to be huge next year, no matter what you think of it. I have my thoughts on this, as you may know. Regardless of that, it's going to be an incredibly important thing to have as a content creator covering Apple, to the point where, because it's coming out in the US first, we don't know when it's coming out in the UK. What I'll probably end up doing is going to the US to get one, or to interview someone who has it, and to try it out myself over there. It's worth the airfare. It's worth going over there to do it. You could very quickly make that a profitable trip. So no, it's that there are limits. I wouldn't buy a Mac Pro. That's a great example. I wouldn't spend 11 grand on a computer, which I can probably make one video about, maybe a couple of videos. It's going to take quite a while to get that money back. So yeah, that's an example of a limit, and why I've never bought one. Bear with me, guys. My voice is going again. Rob says, "Where's the merch?" One day, Rob. One day I'll create the merch, I promise. Another question from Rob. Will you be investigating YouTube memberships at some point? I'm looking forward to the day when you read out a lovely super thanks from Kathy and Milton Keynes, who asks, a la Justin Hawkins. If you've not seen Justin Hawkins, guys, or if you don't know who he is, he's the lead singer and guitarist from The Darkness. And also, that band is still going, still touring. But he's also now a huge YouTuber. He's got like 400 plus thousand subscribers, and he publishes a video every single day, pretty much. And he's got some brilliant merch, actually. And yeah, he does have his YouTube memberships and stuff. I do get super thanks occasionally, which are just one of those things there's two things I get which amaze me. One of them is super thanks, which is when someone on a YouTube comment section just gives you some money and says thanks. The second one is people do a similar thing on Medium, so that they can tip you on Medium. So occasionally I just get these completely random PayPal payments of like $5, $10 or something. And because of the way the system works, it's not always obvious where it's come from with that one, but normally you can attribute it to a Medium reader. They amaze me because people are putting their hands in their pockets and giving you money, whereas normally people are saying, "Oh, I can't believe you spent 90 seconds on that ad. Why are you getting sponsored? Why are you trying to make money from making content online?" So to have people actually physically give you money is just mind-blowingly lovely. So I have had a few super thanks, but long way to answer your question, Rob. Probably not. I'm probably not going to go down the route of YouTube memberships. Patreon is still the kind of vehicle for that for me. One day, maybe, but Patreon works at the moment, so I'm sticking with that. Alan, how do you make YouTube shorts? Do you make them inside Final Cut. I used to do them myself. I don't do them myself anymore, Alan. So I actually give them to another guy. So the production process now is that I create the YouTube video myself. So I do the editing and everything. Once it's done, I export a smaller version of it, just for transportation ease, and give that to my editor and say to him, look, I think we can create 4, 5, 6 shorts from this. Here's the timestamps of roughly where each short I think should start. And he goes off and takes them and reformats them for vertical and does some clever stuff and puts captions on and edits the bit in that he thinks works best. And we've got to the stage now working together where I can just let him do it. So I don't really have to check them too much, which is great. And they perform brilliant. Not all of them, but a lot of them perform really well. I've had some really big views on, particularly on TikTok, but more recently Instagram. There's been some really big reels that have kind of popped off, as they say. But I don't do them anymore. The one thing I would say with shorts, and coming back to repurposing content, is that rather than creating lots of extra work for yourself by filming a long form YouTube video in horizontal normal format, and then doing separately a bunch of filming for vertical videos, to cut out that second task, when you're filming your main YouTube video, just think short, think vertical. So make sure, I mean, you should be doing this anyway, but make sure that if you're doing A-roll stuff, make sure you're center of frame. Don't be doing this. I mean, that's annoying anyway, but if you're doing that, it makes it a lot harder to reframe that. You can do that with AI and stuff, but it's still a faff and it never looks very good. So when you're filming either yourself or you're filming products like for B-roll, etc., at the back of your mind, just be thinking, will this work vertically? Because if it does, it makes the editing the repurposing process afterwards much easier. But yeah, it's quite a slick process now, but quite a simple one, to be fair. Any other questions, guys? Have I missed any? Let me see if I've missed any. I don't think I have. Hit me with, well, where are we? 40 minutes. This has gone on longer than I thought it would, which is a good thing. But I thought we'd run out of questions and stuff after my massive sales plug at the start of this video. Any other questions, guys? Another one from Rob. Are you concerned about the long-term viability of Substack as the platform foundation for Solo Club? All the cool kids are moving to Ghost and Ali is already there. I'm not concerned about it at the moment. It's still, the subscribers are still coming in at quite a nice rate. And more importantly, I've got like 22 paying members now, most of whom are paying really to support that newsletter, because there's not a huge amount of paid content coming out at the moment. There will be. I've got some plans for that, but generally speaking, most people are just paying to support it, and it's built that number of paying subscribers and non-paying subscribers quite quickly. There's just so many of these platforms. I've not paid attention to Ghost whatsoever, but there are just so many. The one that you pick, it's getting harder basically to pick the right platform for newsletters, I think. But I like Substack's approach. I like their business model. I like the platform. I think it's very simple and works, and everything about it's got all the right essence about being a newsletter type platform. But I'll check Ghost out, particularly if Ali's gone there, obviously. But I'm not too worried about it at the moment. I think I'm going to stick. The great thing, having said that, is that if it's a newsletter, it's your list. So that whether you're building that list on Ghost or Substack or ConvertKit, whatever it might be, or MailChimp, etc., if that platform starts to tail off, or if it disappears, or whatever happens, it's a bit different if it disappears, but you can get a copy of that email list, basically. It's your audience. It's not like YouTube. If YouTube disappears tomorrow, I lose all those subscribers. I don't get access to them. Whereas a newsletter, I own, in the nicest possible way, I own that list of subscribers. So if Substack does start to go down the pan, or it becomes clear that Ghost is a better alternative, it's relatively easy to take that list, stick it into the new platform, and pick up where you left off. So that's the nice thing about it. So that definitely reduces any kind of worry that I have about that. Joe, when it comes to suggesting a price to a business for a project, how do you come up with a figure? In my area of work, companies will pay between 2,000 to 6,000 for the exact same kind of project. Any tips? It's the exact same thing in this business, Joe. So a sponsor integration, for instance, um, same sort of numbers potentially, maybe a bit higher, maybe a bit lower, whatever. Um, it's a bit of a finger in the air type thing, really. In terms of how you come up with pricing, you do get an idea. Although I said earlier, there's no set rate card for this. There's a bit of commonality between what people are charging, and you do start to hear numbers which a lot of people are using. Again, this is why it's so good to have the community aspect of this, because you start to hear things on the grapevine and via your mates in the same industry. So I've always worked on the basis that you quote a figure which feels too high. I've always been like this in business. Quote something that feels a bit daft, um, because you can never go up. You can always come down. So if you quote too low and they say yes straight away, there's always that horrible thing where you think they've said yes so quickly. I could have added another 90% to that. So start high. Start with a fee that you think is too much. And you never know, and this has happened to me, they may just say yes, which is wonderful because it then reveals that actually there is a market for that rate. If they don't say yes, they say, oh, that's a bit high, then that's fine. You can come down a bit. But yeah, it's similar to what you've described there, Joe. It can be a little bit all over the place. Rob says that it doesn't help they upset Elon and effectively got themselves banned from Twitter. I'm guessing this is Substack. I didn't know that actually. But yeah, it's not hard to upset Elon, is it, really? Let's be honest. Although what they're doing with video, just very quickly before I forget, if you weren't aware of this, if you look at when you get a chance, go and have a look at the official Apple Twitter account. About 3 or 4 days ago, they published a tweet, which was about I think it's called Silo. I've not seen it yet, but Silo, which is an Apple TV show, saying that the new series or something was coming on. And it just kind of finished by saying, oh, and here's the first episode. And the entire first episode of Silo was just in a tweet, like 50 minutes long piece of video. And you could just sit there on Twitter and watch it for 50 minutes. To my knowledge, that's not been done before. Although you can publish a video on Twitter, the idea of a very big entity publishing an entire, or distributing really an entire episode of a show within a tweet is just unheard of. And then obviously the next day, Elon started kind of chest beating about it and saying, check out what Apple are doing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's very exciting, actually. No matter what you think about Twitter, and Elon has kind of hinted at this in the past, that they've got quite big ambitions about video. They want to make it more of a video platform. They've got a lot of work to do with that, but this thing with Apple is a good indication of how serious they are about it. Particularly that Apple have bought into it. The fact that Apple have thought, yeah, we need to give this a go. It's worthwhile doing. That's a good sign. So it just depends how that trickles down to us mere mortals like me. Will I get access to better video creation tools on Twitter? If so, my word, would I use it? My audience on Twitter is pretty much people like you guys, really. It's people who are interested in this side of the business. So publishing some solo club stuff through Twitter would be an absolute no-brainer in terms of video. So that was really exciting, actually. Really, really excited about that. Some new people coming in. Hi, Seffi. Hopefully I've got your name right there. Any other questions, guys, before I shoot off? It's Friday. It's time to grab a beer when I get home, I think. And I am working tomorrow, but a part of tomorrow anyway. But yeah, it's the end of the week, which is good news. Anyone who's new on this live stream, fancy asking a question? Or are we done? I never know when to wrap this up. I start kind of padding a bit and then thinking, will anyone ask a question? It all goes a bit quiet on the right-hand side of the screen. And then someone pipes up out of nowhere, which is always scary and exciting at the same time. Or it just goes very quiet. And perhaps you're all just kind of chilling out now and getting on with your work, or I don't know. But I just never really know when to wrap it up. What I will do, just in case anyone else is going to ask another question, is just kind of, again, do another sales pitch, basically. So if you look in the description of this video, there's a little link to um, a, a solo club page, which is all about the new Mark Ellis Academy. There's been lots more information about this coming in the future. I won't bore you with it again on here for a little while, but I did want to announce it today because I think it is a very big thing for me, really. And it's something that's going to be taking place later this year. So lots more details on the way. You can put your email address in just to be kept up to date with those happenings around the Mark Ellis Academy. And yeah, it's something which I think hopefully you'll find interesting. Hugo, you're new here. Nice to see. It's nice to see some new names as much as it is nice to see uh, old faces as well. Take the old faces thing. I meant that in a nice way. But yeah, it's always good to see new names. Thanks, guys. I'm going to wrap up here and crack on with the weekend. And yeah, thanks for. Oh, we've got someone else new. Tectonic. I like that name. Portugal. I didn't ask where everyone. Let's just do a very quick roll call. Where is everyone dialing in from? He says, as though it was 1995. So we've got Portugal. I know we've got some UK people. Hostler says pub. Are you watching this in the pub? That would be awesome if you are. Would it be awesome? It'd be a bit strange, wouldn't it? Joe says, have you considered doing this live stream on the main channel and then maybe plug this channel for more viewers to find the channel? I did plug the Solo Club a couple of times, actually, a couple of months ago, and that's what gave it quite a big boost in numbers, which was nice. I probably won't do that, though. It's not. You have to be so careful on YouTube. If I just started a live stream on Mark Ellis Reviews, it's got to have a real. I need a real reason to do it. It needs to be a big event or something. And to throw this in, it's tricky as a call to action. But London, Somerset, Wales, Gloucestershire, loads of people from the UK. That's awesome. Kathy from Milton Keynes, says Rob. And Belfast, Alan. Anyway, guys, thank you. I love to see where people are dialing in from. Well, I keep saying dialing in. It's not. We're not using modems, are we? But it's nice to see where you're all calling in from because it just shows how far this reaches, which is awesome. But anyway, I'm going to stop waffling now and yeah, go and have a drink because it's Friday. And have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you check out the Solo Club website link in the description. And I'll be back next week at probably around about the same sort of time. But come armed with questions and thoughts, and yeah, we'll do it then. But cheers, guys. Have an amazing weekend. Cheers.